George Roddy. It's showing we've got you live on audio. Just give me 1 second, folks. Let me, you can't hear anything. Okay. Y'all give me 1 second. Let me line George out. Okay, folks, can you hear me?
I got you, Tim.
There we go. All right.
I can hear you now.
Without further ado, my friend George Roddy.
No applause? Oh. Hey, everybody. George Roddy. Yeah, there you go. Thanks so much for being on this presentation. I don't know how long we're going to take, probably 30 minutes. You guys can, Tim, am I going to be able to see their questions? So, and I want this to be interactive, so I didn't know if you were going to be looking at the questions and asking me, or should I periodically?
Now you'll be able to see the questions.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Excellent. Let me see. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull this down. All right. Why don't you read them to me periodically, Tim, if you're going to be on the call, because I can't put it on a different section where I can see them all. But again, my name is George Roddy. I'm going to try to educate you guys on the right way to pursue buying Texas foreclosures. My background, if you don't know, and probably many of you don't, is I got my start from my father, who owns a company called Foreclosure Listing Service. And this is a company, a Texas-based company that tracks foreclosures in 18 counties in the state, 7 of which are in Dallas-Fort Worth. But we go down to San Antonio, or Austin, cover that metro area, and then San Antonio. So my background was 20 years ago, Tim. It's been 20 years. I went down to my first courthouse auction, and the reason why I did that was because my father sent me down there to track. Working for him, he wanted me to track, and one of the things that they do is they track all the sales that occur on the courthouse steps. So if a property shows up, or a mortgage, or a trustee shows up and auctions off the property, a lot of times it goes back to the bank, and I was supposed to write down that it went back to the bank and for how much it went back to. So that's 20 years ago. This month, I went to my first courthouse auction. I've missed 2 auctions since then. So I feel like I can bring enough wares to the table when talking about foreclosures. So one of the things that I wanted to always, a lot of realtors and investors alike, I always like to ask them when they come and tell me they want to buy a foreclosure, I want to make sure that we're talking about the same product or the same type of property. And so, to me, a foreclosure, there's really 2 types. There's a pre-foreclosure and then a auction foreclosure. So a foreclosure to me is something that where a lender has posted the property for an upcoming auction. So some investors and realtors think that a property that is owned by the bank is a foreclosure. And even MLS and Netris, up until a couple years ago, used to call that a foreclosure. And it's really an REO. It's an institutionally owned property once the bank has already gone through the foreclosure process. So what I have dealt with for the last 20 years is researching and trying to acquire the posted for an upcoming auction property. So that's what I'm just going to kind of give you some high-level things to think about if you wanted to pursue buying Texas foreclosures. I think it's important that all of you guys understand the 4 P's of Texas foreclosures. And the 4 P's are the people, or the players that are involved in this process. And let me give you an example of some players. You have, obviously, the borrower. You have the owner, which could be separate or different than the borrower. You have the bank. You have the bank's representative, which is called the trustee. And then you have you, the investor. So running it down, you've got the borrower, the owner, and let me stop by real quick, is a lot of times, guys, I'll see that somebody's name is showing to be on our posted for foreclosure, but when I research the county records, I'll determine that there is a different owner where maybe the borrower sold the house to a different person. So the borrower is getting foreclosed on, but the property is actually owned by someone else. So that's what I mean by borrower and owner. You've got the bank, you've got the trustee or the attorney that represents the bank, and then you have yourself. So the second is the procedure. And I'll go over a little bit about the procedure. You know, I think it's important that you need to kind of wash your mind clean. So many of the people I talk to are coming from other states and they're interested in Texas, and they're used to the procedure in Arizona. And I know a lot of gurus out of town or really out of state gurus that come into town and try to teach people how to buy foreclosures, and they don't understand the procedures and the people. So I think it's important that you really immerse yourself in the procedures. And one procedure that is probably different than other states is we're a fast foreclosure Super Tuesday state. So we're a Super Tuesday state, meaning the auctions occur the first Tuesday of every month. And we're fast because the Texas Property Code that requires that the lenders or the lender's representative, the trustees, notify the public 21 days before the auction. So in California, there's called a notice of default and then a notice of sale. Well, here in Texas, we skip the whole notice of default and we go directly to the notice of sale. And so it's a very fast foreclosure state. When a bank wants to foreclose on someone here in Texas, it takes a lot less time to do so than California or Rhode Island or judicial states. The other one is the pitfalls. I mean, I think at any strategy you choose, there's definitely some pitfalls. So my philosophy is let's learn backwards and forwards the pitfalls that can occur. One pitfall that I see a lot is people think they're buying the house at the auction, and to a degree that's true, but you're actually buying a lien, L-I-E-N. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, sometimes people think they're buying a first lien and they're actually buying a second lien. And the difference between the first and the second is not the amount. I've seen second liens that are larger than first liens. What makes a first and the second a second is the time or the date that the lien was recorded. So a pitfall that I see a lot is that people haven't done their research and they haven't verified that they're buying a first lien, which in most cases is what you want. Some people will buy judgments thinking, let's say for a $100,000 house, and they buy a $10,000 mechanics lien. Well, in Texas, the good thing is you get ownership by buying that $10,000 mechanics lien. The bad news is the mortgage that was filed 5 years before the mechanics lien, it still stays in effect. In essence, you bought the house subject to, or basically the first lien doesn't wipe out. So anyway, there's a few more pitfalls that I try to teach people, and you'll learn as you go and you get educated. But another pitfall is, I would say, is people don't maybe do a trial run. I always suggest that if you're going to try to buy a property at the auction, just do a trial month. Go down there, without cashier's checks in your pocket, and just kind of get a feel for it before you actually go live, because you'll learn a lot and you'll learn how the process is. So I definitely would recommend all of you guys go down to an auction just to be what's called, what I affectionately call you guys tourists. You're just a tourist today. You're just trying to get a feel for it. The last thing is the profit centers. Foreclosures offer profit centers if you know the people, the procedure, and the pitfalls. So, to me, there's 3 different ways of profiting in foreclosures. You have before an auction, at an auction, and after the auction. And I would tell you that at the auction is probably the most risky. If you're buying, because unfortunately, you're not going to be able to tour or view the inside of the properties most likely, unless the property is vacant. And even then, you're on someone's private property. So that is by far like level 3 investing. I know Tim has attended auctions, but there's a lot of risk when you can't open the door and walk through the property, and so you have to buy it at a deeper discount. And sometimes even buying it at a deeper discount isn't enough. So that's one of the things that I've ran into over the years buying properties on the courthouse steps. Is it's a lot more risky, and you need to understand that. I don't recommend that to someone just starting out unless they have a very clear understanding of all the risks. So basically, I want to talk about the 21-day filing. I just talked about the 21-day filing, or a little bit. The 21-day filing is, again, 21 days before the first Tuesday. Non-judicial versus judicial. I mentioned that before, but we're a non-judicial foreclosure state. So when banks want to foreclose on my neighbor, they don't have to get a judge to approve the forced sale. Which liens fall off and which ones stay? Basically, there are 4 liens that you need to worry about. These liens do not fall off at the auction. So if any of you guys are interested in buying on the courthouse steps, well, and let me preface this by saying, if you were going after a pre-foreclosure, and a pre-foreclosure to me is a property that's posted for the auction, and you're attempting to buy the property before the actual auction. In essence, to help the homeowner out and save them from having a foreclosure on their record, you absolutely can do that. But you need to understand that nothing falls off. And it's a bad analogy, but I always use it. A foreclosure to me is like the art of foreclosing is kind of like a dishwasher. When you put dirty dishes in a dishwasher and you let the dishwasher run its cycle and you open up the door to the dishwasher, 9 out of 10 times the plate that you put in there that was dirty is going to come out a lot cleaner. And that's what foreclosure is. It cleans the title. And the reason why I say it cleans the title is because it wipes away liens. Most liens fall off on the courthouse steps. So if you were to buy a first lien on the courthouse steps and there was a second or third lien against the property, in most cases it gets automatically wiped out. And so it's a cleansing process to the title of that property. But there are some liens, there's 4 liens that do not fall off. And you need to understand and learn how are they filed, and what are those liens. There's 9 different liens you can buy. Again, I'm talking about a word that an FHA mortgage is a type of lien. A Fannie Mae mortgage or Fannie Mae loan is a lien. A mechanics lien, a homeowners association lien, a tax loan lien, a contract for deed is not necessarily a lien, but it's one of the 9. So I typically don't even pursue anything. I mark that off my list if it's a contract for deed. We have VA liens. I think I'm at 6 or 7. We have home equity loans. And I think that's it. FHA, VA, Fannie Mae. Conventional is number 4. Mechanics lien, homeowners dues, tax loans, contract for deeds, and I'm forgetting one. I don't know. It'll come to me. I'm not writing this down, so this is just kind of off the fly. But, you know, it's important that you understand what you're buying. And let's take, for instance, a homeowners association lien. A homeowners association can foreclose on your neighbor's property because of non-payment of homeowners dues. And some people think that's a good thing, and some people think that's a terrible idea. But it is what it is. The Texas Property Code allows it. So let's say Tim goes down there next month and buys that actual HOA lien for $5,000. And let's say the property is worth $150,000. Well, I want all of you guys to understand that Tim is the legal owner of that property, but Tim doesn't own that property free and clear. Most likely is because there's probably a mortgage that supersedes the HOA lien. And so Tim would need to be prepared to pay off the mortgage. And what I found is, Tim, if you went to the mortgage company and said, hey, I'd just like to take over the payments, they're not going to allow that because your name is not on the loan, and they can't talk to you, and they can't transfer any kind of private information on that loan. So Tim would need to be prepared to pay off that lien. Now, you know, I bought one of these liens several years ago, and I paid $3,000 for the lien, and it was on a $300,000 house. But I understood what I was getting into. I paid my risk was $3,000. What I had done is I had done a title search, and I had found that there was a first and a second on this property. So I, in essence, bought the third. But what I did was I made an assumption, which you're not supposed to do, but I looked at the first lien loan amount, and that loan was taken out 5 years prior to the foreclosure sale. But the loan was taken out for, the first lien was taken out for $220,000. All right? So if you're writing this down, write $300,000 as the market value, write $220 as the first, and write down $40,000 is the second lien. And then write $3,000 was the third. So in essence, there was $263,000 in debt. But because I bought the third lien, I was able to sell that property immediately. The house was vacant, so I put my sign in the yard, a real estate sign in the yard, and I listed it for $300,000. And luckily, I got a buyer who was willing to pay me $300,000, and the reason was because it was really worth a little bit more than $300,000, and so I sold that property. I think it was 42 days after I bought it for $300,000. So the mathematicians that are on the call right now, tell me what 260 minus 300 is. Now, I paid $10,000 in closing costs and commissions, so I didn't net $300,000. You know, I didn't sell it. I sold it for $300,000, but $10,000 went towards fees. So $290 minus $260 is $30,000. Minus my investment, I think all of us would have an interest in doing that type of deal. But it's once you start learning how the system works that you can start getting creative. Marketing options. You know, with foreclosures, and Tim knows this, we've done a lot of marketing, but you know, when marketing to pre-foreclosures, that's before they actually go to the auction, I would suggest there's 3 ways. Number 1 is telephone. Okay, so you can call them on the phone, but what I found is a lot of people have cell phones and they don't have landlines anymore. And when I'm going to different white pages websites, I would say 85% of the time I don't get a good number. I don't get a number that works, or the number, you know, or I don't have a number at all. So number 1 is calling them, but I haven't had a lot of success calling. Number two is actually driving to the property. You need to drive the property anyway, but driving and knocking on their door. It's good, it's better. You need to go to the property anyway to evaluate it. But what I found is you catch people on edge. They're not anticipating someone knocking on the door. So, after 10,000 doors that I've knocked, I will say that, I haven't had an overwhelming good experience from door knocking. I'm not saying that it doesn't work, because I've bought some pretty good deals by door knocking, but overall I look at what's the best use of my time, and I think that's number three, and that's basically mailing them something. And I think that you need to focus on mailing. What I would suggest you do, and what I do is mail them on 18 days before the auction, which is today, and mail them 11 days, so next Friday. So try to mail pre-foreclosures twice in a short period of time. The first one they're probably going to get on Monday, and they're going to toss it in the trash. And then next week, you're going to send out, you could send out the same postcard, or it might say second notice or second request or second mailer, and it basically says, do you have any interest in selling your property? All right? Would you like a cash offer for your house? Would you like to sell your house in a website to go to or call? So as far as marketing, I would suggest doing that. What to say to sellers facing foreclosure? Again, I'm focusing on the pre-foreclosure aspect, but I think that you guys, to me, the way, and I'm just going to give you my personal opinion, is I try to find out what a homeowner wants to do, and I try to support them in that endeavor. So, Tim has heard me say this a lot, but the first thing I want to do when I'm talking to a homeowner is I want to find out one of two things. Do they want to stay, or do they want to sell? All right? Because if you want to stay, I know that they have, and if they want to sell, obviously you can help them in that regard. By either listing their house if you're an agent, or buying their house if you're an investor, or at least getting it under contract and controlling the deal. Because most of you, that's where some of you guys are, and some of you have the wherewithal and the means to buy the property itself. So anyway, that's what I would say. I need to find out what they want to do. Do they want to stay or sell? And as soon as they tell me what they want to do, I support them 100%. Absolutely. That sounds great. I'm here to help you. But I'm going to follow up with them, because what I found is most people want to stay, but it doesn't work out. And so it's just psychology to me. People want to, they're going to, I don't think they're going to discount and disregard what I say if I'm trying to support what they're doing. But I'm also I'm going to come back a week later or a couple days later and say, hey, Tim, how's that going working with the bank? Have you gotten that loan modification agreement that they swore you would get today? Have you gotten it? And what they're going to find is you need to let them make the decision on what to do. No one likes to be told what to do, or most people don't like to be told what to do. Running the numbers is a big part. This is kind of your analyzing. It's I think foreclosures is broken down into a couple parts: locating, analyzing, purchasing, rehabbing, liquidating. So I'll say it again: locating foreclosures, analyzing the numbers. How are we going to purchase it? Are we going to pay cash? Are we going to take over the loan? Are we going to use our line of credit? Are we going to try to get a loan? So that's the acquisition. Then how are we going to repair it, or renovations? If it's a buy and hold versus a flip, we're going to renovate it differently. And then liquidation, are we going to sell it FSBO or for sale by owner, or list it with an agent? What are the costs? And that goes into running the numbers. I think, excuse me, a general rule would be, I think, running the numbers starts with what is the fair market value. And if you don't know what the fair market value is, you really don't know what you can buy the property for. And you're going to get burned. It's not if you get burned, it's just how bad. So I always, when I'm running the numbers, and this doesn't really have to do with foreclosures, it's just general. When I'm running the numbers, I'm looking for comps in the same subdivision. I like to get at least 4 comps, and within 12 months. Now, I would love it if they're all 6, but I've analyzed a lot of deals over the years, and here recently, I'm analyzing 3,000 to 5,000 properties, and so as a general rule, I look in the subdivision. I like it to be 10% with 10% difference in the property size. So there can be a variation of 10% in the size of my comps. And then 5 years up or down. So if the property is built in 2000, I'm not going to use any comps that were built prior to 1995 and newer than 2005. And then I'll go back 12 months. Because that'll give me a good, I should be able to get 4 to 5 comps within 12 months. And I would say 70% of the time I can get 4 to 5 comps if I use that rationale. 30% of the time I'm going to have to go to an area or a zip code, and I get a little bit more conservative on my FMV or fair market value. I also would suggest that, you should probably use the $10 rule, and the $10 rule would be more of the renovation cost. And this can, obviously, if the house was built prior to 1985, I think you're good with the $10 rule. Just, if the house is 2,000 square feet, it's 20 grand. It's going to run you 20 grand to renovate that. And your house will probably be nicer than most of the houses on the street. But if you get a little bit older than 1985, I think you might go to 12, and then 14, and 16, and 18. The older it gets, and it hasn't been renovated, the more systems are going to be breaking down or need to be replaced. Preparing for the auction, one of the things that I do is, number one, I drive all the properties. I absolutely will not buy a property that I have not driven. I don't care what the numbers are. I have to set eyes on it, because I have seen investors that have bought burnouts. I've seen investors buy, they just took a risk and they got burned, and I'm not in a position where I want to get burned like that. So preparing for the auction, number one is I always drive the properties. Number two, I always do a title search. I don't hire that out, and only because I'm cheap, Tim. I still, I could get some help from title abstractors or title companies, but I like doing title searches. And real quickly,
George, you are cheap, by the way.
Yes, absolutely. So what I did was I just had a title company people teach me how to do it the right way, and then I get my cashier's checks in order. I make the cashier's checks. This is one of the preparation. Is I think that's before the auction. Now, the biggest thing at the auction, even before having money, and that's really important, and having it in the right way, is having your auction list in the right format. I'll see so many people they've spent 80 hours researching properties, and yet they show up at the courthouse and they don't have, it's not in the courthouse auction format. And as you'll learn if you've ever gone to an auction, or when you go to the auction, these trustees, they're all different. It's not just one auctioneer like you see on TV, or it's not in a ballroom, it's outside, and there's different auctioneers called trustees. So that's why you need to go down and do a test run or a trial run and see what kind of format you need. And that's a big preparation for the auction. And then obviously I go down there with cashier's checks made out payable to my company or myself, and they're in different denominations because I don't want to give a trustee $100,000 cashier's checks when I paid $50 for the house. So cut it up in different denominations, and you can always just endorse it over to the law firm that you bought the house from. How to bid, I'm not going to really go. Here's my simple answer to how to bid. $1 more. That's how you bid. When the trustee says, on behalf of Wells Fargo, our opening bid is $301,000 or $30,000, Do I have any other bids? That's what the trustee's going to say. I say $1 more. Not 100 more, not 1,000 more, $1 more. Because you might be the only bidder. And you've got your bid list there, and you know what you can go up to, and you've got to expect that you're going to have other people that are going to be bidding against you. I just keep on going in $1. So if Tim were to bid $40,000 and my max bid on my sheet is $50, I'd say $1 more. And he says $42, I'd say $1 more. I go all the way up to $50,000 and I stop. Because I use, there's a reason why I said $50,000 was my max bid. And I don't want to get emotional on the courthouse steps, and I'll see a lot of investors get emotional about this because they haven't bought anything in the morning and they spent all this time. And you know what? It's warranted, right? It is frustrating when you walk away from the courthouse after spending 80 hours researching this and several $100s, and you walk away with nothing. That is frustrating. I get it. But I'd rather live another day. I'd rather come back next month with a little bit less money because I had to spend $1,000 researching this in 80 hours, but I'm coming back instead of making a bad decision, a bad 4 to 6 month decision. For a bad buy is going to probably cost me 4 months, and I'm not going to make nearly the amount of money. So it's just not worth it in the long run.
George, that's where it takes someone like you that's disciplined with your numbers, and that's one of the reasons I don't go to the auction is because I get all competitive, and I do it at the houses where I'm bidding with the seller and against another investor. And that's when I've already seen the entire house and been able to go in there a couple times. And so I think that's a very key point that you said don't get emotional, stick to your numbers because, like you said, you can't rehab your way out of a bad buy.
Yeah, exactly. What type of ownership? You get ownership. I don't know what I was going with that question, but you get full ownership. This isn't an interest like other states. Here's what I meant by type of ownership. You're gonna, once you buy a property, and Tim, whether it's a first, second, third, or fourth lien, you get ownership. That means you can sell that property or rent that property that day. Okay. Now there are some liens that you buy on at the trustee and the sheriff sale auction that have redemption periods, but and I can go into that further if I had more time, but you get ownership, and we're an ownership state, not an interest state. Evictions, look, evictions is a part of foreclosures. What I did when I just took a page out of the big banks processes, and no one likes to evict somebody. I don't know of anybody that likes to evict somebody. So what I do is I try to offer cash for keys. And, I might not offer $2,000 that the banks are doing, but I'll offer $700, $1,000 because in the long run, look, you can do these occupants, I shouldn't call them owners because they're not owners. They're basically a tenant at sufferance. They can do a lot more than $1,000 in damage if they really wanted to. So I always, you always have the eviction card, but I always try to offer cash for keys. Approaching banks after the auction, I think that there is a strategy there, but here's what I would suggest to you guys. I personally don't go after FHA, VA, or Fannie Mae REOs, or excuse me, after the auction. And the reason why is these loans are insured or guaranteed. So what that means is the government has guaranteed the bank that if they originated the loan and the loan needed to be, if the loan was foreclosed on, the government will step in and bail out the bank. So the bank is going to get a check from the government because they insured or guaranteed it. And it's not going to be 100%, but it's going to be 90%. And so the reason why, Tim, I don't go after FHA, VA is just for that. If I approached you and you're the CEO of, this bank, and I offer you 60 cents on the dollar because that's what, I'm an investor and I want to get it at a discount, and you're going to get a check from the government for 90, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know who the CEO is going to sell their property to. it's going to be always the government. And so I go after conventional or smaller banks. If I see a property and I know that's a conventional bank, then I'll go after them and see if they, because it's not insured, I'll go after that bank and try to approach them in a way that, and make them an offer that I think makes sense. All right, it's 3:40. Tim, are there any questions out there?
That's a negative.
Okay. Y'all have 2 minutes to ask me questions, because I gotta wrap this up. And Tim, I don't know how do they have the web? Yes. Okay.
Here's a question. Will George be at the REI Expo next weekend? Yes. George will be at the REI Expo. George will have a table in the investor club section.
That was one of my questions.
Say again?
That was one of my questions to you. Am I going to get a table? Do I get one like, are you dedicating 24 inches by 24 inches for me?
Well, I don't know. I'm going to have to check that dimension. I think we ran out of space for you.
Okay.
George he will be in the investor club section, which is in the main concourse where everybody has to walk through. And then George is speaking. George, do you know when you're speaking?
Sunday at 1 o'clock.
Oh, you get the good slot.
I think 1 or 2 o'clock. There you
go. George Roddy is speaking at 1:15 on Sunday. He's teaching Hedge Fund Hunter how to partner with the $1 billion buyer. And but George will be in and out all weekend. Look for any signs that say Roddy Roundup or Roddy.com, or really anything that says Roddy, R-O-D-D-Y, because that will be George.
Yeah. I'm trying to pull up the FLS side. I don't know why I'm not being able to, but I just wanted to show them real quick what the foreclosure, because it came out this week, Tim, and I just wanted to give somebody to give me a, maybe our site is down. Let me see.
No, you had that problem. Are you on your office Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
You had that problem when you couldn't connect to your server from inside your office.
Well, I'm at another office.
Ah.
Let me see. I put in this, maybe there's something going on, but basically we just came out and I wanted somebody to give me a city, and I could show you in 2 minutes how I could find a deal, hopefully a deal in your city that had 30% equity, but apparently that's too much to ask today.
Well, it might be your connection since you're streaming video with GoToWebinar.
Yeah.
Because I just
let me see if there's anything else. Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Let me go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I guess I covered all the 9 different types. I'm trying to look and see if there's anything that I think you guys really need to, obviously this is not Foreclosure 101 in 42 minutes, but, what I want you to walk away from is it happens every month, and, the volume, I think you might want to write down the volume. This month we had, in Dallas County, there were 1,300 postings for Dallas County for the February 5th auction. Tarrant County had 1,045. Collin County had 400 or I think it's actually 380. And Denton County had around 350. And once you get out to where, like the higher end areas like Rockwall, then it falls off a little bit, where, Tim kind of hangs out in the high rent district. In Rockwall, Tim, I think we got about 75 out there for you.
Yeah, we're not, yeah. Do you travel to Houston, someone asked?
Do I?
Do you travel to Houston?
I mean, we don't put out a report. Yes. We do. I mean, I do go to Houston, but we do not put out a report. there's another company like my dad's that puts out a report called Foreclosure Houston. You can just Google Foreclosure Houston and try to. I wanted to, guys, if you wanted, Tim has allowed me to chill a little bit. Is this all right if I show them my site and talk to them about?
Yeah. I mean, that's what gave me. Yeah, that's what gave me the idea, because it's a great course and it's affordable. So if someone's wanting to learn about it and they're going to be at the expo, I mean, you know, if they can get educated before, they could actually be on the steps by the next week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the next auction is February 5th. I wanted to talk about the Roddy Roundup. Like Tim, you know, I'm an advocate of good education and local education. So, you know, we come together once a month, 10 times a year in Addison. So if you want to go to roddy.com and register, it's free. You know, we'll have we'll have sandwiches for dinner from Subway. We've got a vendor, and so after you guys attend the the Real Estate Expo, then look at maybe, if you can, February 7th, 2 days after the auction. And then here is the how to buy. I offer a couple online courses, and let me explain what an online course, in my opinion, what an online course is. It basically gives you videos, the workbook, and all the supporting documentation. So you can watch, you know, I talk about it here, but you can register by clicking on it, and it takes you to Eventbrite, and it's $59. So, and it's basically 3 hours of me talking via PowerPoint. You can watch it as much as you want. It's really a home study course, because you have a link and you can come back to it over and over. And if any of you guys will do it in the next couple days, if you'll buy this, I'll take $19 off. All right? So right here, put REI, oh, no. I don't know what I did. I think it's REI. REI.
Why don't you make it REI?
I don't know. I don't know why I did that.
Well, we'll just make sure that
Expo, but
we'll just make sure. Well, just tell anyone that wants to peruse around roddy.com that the discount code will be REI. George will go in and make sure that it is indeed REI. And while you're there, I highly recommend that you check out his other courses. He's got some wholesaling courses. He's got some tax lien courses, all types of online courses. And I highly recommend you check those out. George has a lot of resources. He's one of the few educators that I've met over the last 20 years that of looking for guidance that I've seen his track record for 20 years and can highly endorse George. So for whatever that's worth, right? So George,
I mean, that's worth about as far as I could throw it.
Yeah, right.
Thank you so much.
Well, we're going to wrap this up. So if you have any questions, ask them now, or catch George. Look for Roddy.com, Roddy Roundup, or anything that says the word RODDY at the REI Expo next weekend. He'll have a table set up in the Investor Club area. Get to know him. And the thing about George and people like George, me and George, is we don't even really want, we would rather partner with you on deals than we would necessarily get money from you to train you. So, you know, stop by, talk with us, but I just say that partnering on deals means that you actually have an understanding of what you're trying to do. So get educated and then take action. So, George, that's all I've got. It's your call.
Hey, Tim?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for putting on this Real Estate Expo, and I'm looking forward to seeing you and seeing everybody participating. I think it's a wonderful thing, and you know, I have a lot of respect for you, so I can't wait to see you and all the people that are attending. So I hope you guys learned a little bit about foreclosures, and I'll be there to talk about some other things, and you know, I look forward to meeting all of you guys.
Well, George, thanks, and Everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
All right. See ya.